Max, let's go to the Dairy Max Built by Nature hotline to talk with the head coach of the 3-1 Huntsville Hornets. We are joined by Coach Rodney Southern. Coach, how are you?
I'm good.
How are things in beautiful Huntsville, Texas?
They're pretty good today.
No complaints?
No complaints, or none that I'll listen to anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, there shouldn't be any room for complaining around your neck of the woods. You guys come away on Friday night with a huge road win to open district play, 27-7 over A&M Consolidated. I guess first and foremost, what was it that was able to get you guys this really critical win in your district?
Well, we've played really well on the road. You know, we're 3-1, and all three of our victories have come on the road. So, you know, our kids are a mature group. We've only got one sophomore on the varsity, and they played really well. And we've played well defensively all year. But, you know, we made several plays in the second half that kind of took a 7-7 game to a 27-7 game pretty quick.
You know, Coach, I'm glad you brought that up. You mentioned this game was knotted up at 7 at halftime, and you know, obviously with a tie game, sure seemed like anybody's ball game. What adjustments did you make in the second half, or what'd you tell your team at halftime that spurred them on to victory?
Well, we've played well the second half all year, so it was just a matter of there were a couple opportunities in the first half that we had a chance that we didn't make plays, and you know, we always challenge our defensive kids, especially our down linemen, that, you know, we've got to get sacks, we've got to get quarterback pressures. And, you know, finally we got a turnover in a key situation that got us going. And, you know, people think you make tons of adjustments at halftime. A lot of times it's just calming kids down and getting them to understand and execute what we'd originally game planned.
We're talking with Rodney Southern, the head coach at Huntsville here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. Coach, I want to go back to maybe a more a less pleasant weekend you guys had back on the 14th. You guys, the loss to College Station 20-7. But, you know, you hear from coaches all the time that you want to make losses, you know, lessons. You want to turn them into something positive. What was it maybe that you guys took from that loss to College Station that changed, especially considering you had a bye week between then and your win this week?
Well, the big thing is, you know, in that game it was 13-7, and we caused a fumble and picked it up and ran it 60 yards for a touchdown, and had an inadvertent whistle call, which, you know, was a huge play, but it would have changed the entire complexion of that game. And our kids also, you know, we're in the district junior high wise with A&M and the Bryan junior highs and the College Station junior highs. So our kids have played A&M and College Station. We also play 7-on-7 with them in their league every summer. So, you know, our kids know a lot of their kids, and their kids know a lot of our kids. So it wasn't necessarily that, you know, and we knew our schedule was front loaded with some really, really good teams. And, you know, we felt like we could go into those games and not only compete, but have a chance to win them. And, you know, that fumble recovery, which would have changed the game, probably was a play that we all talked about. And of course the kids had a good time with it on Saturday morning, because our defensive coordinator's son's the one that picked up the fumble. So, but I think once they realized we could play with those guys, and, you know, and we were very successful the week before against P&G. So, you know, it was just a matter of correcting some mistakes and knowing how important your first district game is, especially, you know, against a team as good as A&M.
Yeah, and you know, you look at the rest of this this district, and I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but did you guys go into this game thinking, all right, this is probably maybe not for the district title outright, but this will certainly set you guys up in a good position?
Well, we always look at, just like probably every head coach does, that, you know, Saturday morning there were going to be 4 teams that were 1-0 and 4 that were 0-1, and we didn't want to be in the 0-1 group. Because if you go behind to start, then, you know, you always feel like as a coach you're having to make up time or make up something. So, you know, and our kids knew, and because we focused on it, because, you know, I've known Lee Fedora for a long time, and I know how good a job they do coaching-wise. We knew if we could get that one, it makes the road from that point on a little bit easier.
Defensively, Coach, this team has been really impressive all year long. You guys have come up with big plays. You hear about bend, don't break. Well, it seems like you guys rarely bend even there. And one of the guys I know that gets a lot of the headlines is your outstanding defensive end, T'Vondre Sweat. For folks who may not be familiar with his work, I know he's had a big year for you guys so far. What is it about him that makes him so special?
Well, he's number one. He's experienced. He's big and athletic. He's naturally probably one of the strongest kids and probably one of the best kids we've ever had in our program. But he's a natural pass rusher to be a big kid, because T's probably right now 265 to 270. He's 6'4" and a little bit. So, he can cause a tackle to have to change, or possibly a coach to have to change how you're going to block him. But he's been very consistent all year. He had 4 sacks the other night in that game, and he and our other defensive end, Bryson Hayes, kind of changed probably some planning and hopefully some execution, when they line up. But he's such a good kid. He takes coaching very well, and he's fun to be around. And of course, when you have one that's committed to Texas or Texas A&M or any of those places, those guys are fun to coach.
Yeah, it certainly makes it a lot easier to call defensive signals when you get to call it for him. On the offensive side, Coach, your signal caller, a junior, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Mathieu Southern, has had a pretty solid start to the year so far. I'm interested from your perspective, as a head coach and as a guy who's maybe familiar with him in another way. How would you assess his play so far?
Well, I think Matthew's played well, and he's handled the pressure of being the starter and obviously being the head coach's kid. But I tell people all the time, I've been a head coach 17 years, and he just turned 17. So he really doesn't know any different than, being around football and being in a field house or in a locker room. So, I'm the football coach with him, and he and I get to see him every day. But when we leave the field, we don't talk a lot about football because, he hears enough of that, between practice and people yelling at him from the stands and all the stuff that happens. But I've been really pleased. He's handled the situations. He hasn't made a lot of mistakes. Now, he's sometimes thinks he can stick a ball in a window that's not big enough, and he's done that 3 or 4 times. But he's thrown the deep ball really well. And he's managed our offense, and obviously as a dad, you're always proud of that.
We're talking with Rodney Southern, the head coach of the Huntsville Hornets here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. Coach, one more question for you before we let you go. I know you're very busy, but now you guys move on. That wins in the past, and you move on to a team in Cleveland that is struggling right now. It's it's very different from maybe the past couple of teams that you guys have played. But as you well know, in this game, anybody can get you on any Friday night. So how do you go about making sure your kids have the same motivation for a team like Cleveland that's struggling to get its feet underneath it that they're going to need that they would have against a team like A&M Consolidated, a state-ranked team?
Well, I think the motivation's a little different, but at the same time, the one thing I've always told our team, and I told them Saturday morning, that we're going to be honest with them and tell them what the situation is. And, Cleveland has struggled in some phases of the game, and kids can watch film and tell, and especially with social media and all the access to video now that, they see probably some video that we don't see. So, but you have to also work on yourself. We focus really hard on Monday of practice that, this is about us anyway. It's not about A&M. It's not about Cleveland. It's about us getting better at, the things that we need to do. And then to go play well on a Friday night, because you got to execute regardless of who it is. And, they present a couple things offensively that always scare you as a coach. They get in some really odd looking formations. And, if you mess up and let a guy that's eligible get loose in the secondary, or you let a running back get loose, then, you're fighting for your life. So, but we always respect the fact that, whether a team's struggling or not, you got to go physically win the battles you got to win, and obviously we need to win and take care of our home field.
He is Rodney Southern. He is the head coach of the Huntsville Hornets. Coach, really appreciate your time. Congratulations again on your big win on Friday night, and best of luck this week and down the road.
All right. Thank you.